So Honor Flight, how did it get started? Actually got started right here in the Dayton area. I'm not sure you all knew that. How it started was there was an individual named Earl Morris. Earl Morris is a physician assistant with the VA, and he's working out of the office in Springfield. And back in 2004, the World War II Memorial was dedicated. And most of Earl's patients back then were World War II veterans. And in early 2005, he asked one of his patients, Mr. Loy, said, Mr. Loy, you got a memorial back there. You're a World War II guy. When are you going to see your memorial? Mr. Loy broke down crying. He said, I don't have any family left. I don't have the funds to go back and see the memorials. I'll never be able to see it. Well, Earl's dad is a Vietnam veteran. Earl was also a member of the Aero Club at Wright-Patterson. And Earl was planning on taking his dad to see the Vietnam Wall by renting an Aero Club plane. And he told his dad and asked his dad, said, Dad, you know what? We're flying a 4-seater aircraft. Do you mind if I take a couple of my patients, a couple of World War II guys, to go back and see their memorial? And his dad said, absolutely, let's do that. So Earl proposed it to the Aero Club, and one of their safety meetings said, you know what, I'm taking my dad back. I'm taking a couple of World War II guys back. If any of you pilots out there want to help me out, I'd love to have you help me coming out. And there's two stipulations, though. If you're going to take these World War II vets, you're not going to charge them. You're going to have to absorb the cost of rental that plane to go back to D.C. And the second thing is when we get to D.C., you're not going to be staying by your plane. You're going to have to go with them and escort them, which is, where's my guy in the blue shirt, over here. And then so you're going to have to be their guardian when they go back. And he had several pilots agreed to do that. So in May of 2005, out of the Springfield airport back here, 7 4-seater aircraft took off. 6 of them had 2 World War II guys in the back seat. 1 was a spare plane in case anyone had mechanical problems and something on the way. So they took 12 World War II vets back to D.C. in May of 2005. Earl, they rented a couple of planes. He had this little shirt that said Honor Flight on it, and they came up with that name. Earl took his dad over to the Vietnam Wall. The other guys took him over to the World War II Memorial. They fed him an Arby's, kind of like what we do now. Back then, the guy is still with us, Ace. And so we fed him a box lunch, and they came back. What do you think those vets did? They told their buddies, I just had a free trip. Look at this $1,000 shirt I'm wearing. I got free. So those guys signed up. So now the ball starts rolling. So that first year in 2005 took 137 World War II vets back to D.C. to see their memorial. And this is, and open it up to Earl. Well, there's 3 national memorials back. You got the World War II, you got the Korean, you got the Vietnam. So we formed the Honor Flight Network and so forth. And our mission all along was World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. Who better to see those memorials than those that served during that time frame? However, when we first started, I joined them in 2006. I was working consulting for the Air Force. And when I retired from the base, I had 2 stipulations of things I wanted to do. One was certainly get more involved with my church. The other thing, get involved with some nonprofit, some volunteering things, just like what you folks kind of created here with the Optimist stuff. And when I heard about Honor Flight going along, and so in 2006, I said, maybe this is something, because my whole military time and all my service time as a civilian was with the veterans and the active duty military. So I thought, well, this is kind of up my alley. So I went with them on a trip as a guardian. And I said, well, this may be it. So I went the following month as a guardian. And I was hooked. They asked me to be a part of the members. So I've been with it since 2006 timeframe, close to 20 years now. So that's how it got started. And so in 2007, I ran the Dayton operations, and then we started hearing people all across the country saying, geez, I got vets out here, and I'd love to be part of that stuff. So we formed the network in the spring of 2007. So I ran the Dayton operation in 2007, and we got more and more people wanting to help out and wanted their veterans in that local area. So 3 of us on the board of the Honor Flight Network, divided up to 50 states. One took 12 states, another one took 13. I took 25 states. I wanted to make sure, being from Minnesota, I wanted to get the vets all up in that general area and also in the New England area. So after 2007, I turned over the operations of Dayton to one of my friends. And from 2008, 2010, I was on the road all the time helping other cities. I'd go with them how to form a board, how to raise the money. Then I'd go with them on their trips until they felt comfortable going by themselves. So to date, as far as honor flight, I've started 24 honor flights in 14 different states, and I've taken 12,015 vets back to DC to see their memorial. So as far as Honor Flight Dayton, we've done a total now of, from those first four four-seater aircraft. We started off with that in 2005, and then 2006. We can't continue doing with it. At some point, we're going to have problems with four-seater aircraft going that distance and that. So we switched over to, in 2006, to commercial flying. We would fly with AirTran because we could get a direct flight out of here into Baltimore, BWI. So we'd take off, fly commercially, and the buses that we get in DC, there are 56 passengers. So what we were doing initially was just filling up one bus. We get enough vets to do that. We had enough money to take that many vets, and then enough guardians to take care of them. So we'd have 56 individuals going on those trips, and including a medical person. We'd always have a medical person with us. So when we started doing that, and going into BWI and doing those kind of trips, and we did that all the way through up to 2013. And we were taking nothing but World War II from that point until 2013. World War II vets were dying at the rate of 1,500 a day when we started the program. So we said, although our mission is World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, we got to concentrate on those World War II before it's too late. So we did nothing but here locally with just World War II. Then we're going through the list pretty much. We're not getting many more World War II. So in January 2013, we opened it up to the Korean vets. Started getting some Korean vets, but there are not a lot of them in this area here. So we were taking World War II and Korean. And then, because we weren't getting that many, we said, okay, it's time. It's time now to open it up to the Vietnam vet. So in January 2014, we opened up the applications for the Vietnam. However, if we've got a World War II or a Korean, they're going right to the top of the list because of the age, and we still continuing that today. So we started with the Vietnam, and we got a lot of them. You know, one of my biggest fears, I was in combat in '67 Vietnam, is we never talked about, who's Vietnam vets here? Yeah, so we came back, and we never talked about what we did, you know, and how we were treated in that. So we formed a bubble, and every Vietnam vet has their own story. But essentially you form a bubble, and we never talked about it. Never talked to our kids, never talked to our spouses about it. And so we know that going back, what is going to be the concern? My biggest fear is that we're going to open up that bubble and cause more problems. But I can tell you today that all the Vietnam vets we've taken back, I've never had one say they wish they wouldn't have gone. It's just the opposite. Many vets, Vietnam vets, have said, this is probably the best day of my life, best day of our life. And so we're taking Vietnam vet. Now, we were doing the commercial flying, and when we got all those there's more vets in the Dayton area here, we said we better open it up because we don't want them to wait as long as the World War II guys did. So most of the flights I was doing across the country were charter flights, taking over 100 vets at a time. So in the fall of 2014, we also opened it up to here in Dayton as charter flight. So we've been doing nothing but charter flights out of Dayton since the fall of 2014. That gave us, instead of flying 56 passengers back, now we can take 100 and some, and we're taking about 100 vets at a time. So that's what we've been doing. So as I said, the number of vets that we've taken out of Dayton is 7,496 as of our last flight here from Dayton. Our last trip, I got to talk to you about, it's on the screen up there, Honor Flight, and you can see the C-17. So in about 18 months ago, first off, let me just tell you, when we come back at the Dayton airport, a lot of the active duty military are there to greet us when we come back. You know, the things with the Vietnam vets is, yeah, it's important to go see the wall, but it's the camaraderie of being able to go and talk to other vets that have the same or similar experiences. So we strongly encourage them, when you go on these trips and come back, now's the time. You know, we can't do and erase what happened to us when we came back 5 decades ago now. 5 decades ago. I says, those memories will be there. But today, what you're going to see is how America thinks about what you did back then. So it's a very emotional event when they come back, especially the reception we get back. So anyway, the Air Force is all from Right Pat have been out there helping greet our vets when we come back on every one of our trips since we start. In fact, we have 2 ways they can meet our vets. They can get gate passes to get up there and greet us as we come off the plane, or they can stay down or on the other side of security and be down there and greet us when we come back. And so to entertain those folks that are coming out to greet us, we have the Centerville senior band that's out there entertaining our troops every single trip. And then now when we come back, as I said, there's 2 ways. They can meet us downstairs or upstairs, get the gate passes. So when we come off the plane, it's usually the active duty military are greeting us. They're forming a gauntlet. And then when they come off that plane, it's an extremely emotional time. But they have no clue of what's going to happen when we come downstairs. So we get all the vets together, and as I said, we're taking about 100 vets, and I'm taking 64 wheelchairs in every one of those, so more than half of them are probably in wheelchairs. So we get all the walkers off the plane first, so it takes time to get the wheelchairs off the belly of the aircraft to get them up there. So we get all the walkers off, we get all the wheelchair people off, because we're all going out there together. And we'll get them together, and we'll say a few words like, now is the time to open up to your families. And I give them an example of my dad. My dad was World War II. He's gone. I know nothing about what he did. I never had the opportunity. But the vets, now is your time to open up. Don't waste that time. Let them know what you did. And I'll give you one example that it sticks in my mind. There was a daughter that called us up afterwards, and it was a Vietnam vet. And when they got home, the first thing they did, her dad went to the closet, got out this box of stuff from Vietnam, and now open up and start telling her about it. What a joy to be able to experience that. As far as the guardians, let me just talk about it real quick before I forget. We have a large pool of people that want to be guardians to go and escort, like this gentleman over here did. And however, we thought, who better to go with them than a son or daughter or a grandchild? Now we took spouses when we first started. We would allow spouses or a significant other. It is not the same thing when we get to DC. They're off doing their thing. So they're missing the intent of what we're doing with everybody together. So we don't take spouses or significant other, but we do take sons or daughters or grandchild that's over the age of 18. So they can experience it, and they could pass it on to the next generations what that individual did. So that's what we do now as far as the guardians. And then when we get them all together now, and now we're going through security, when we turn that line, it's quiet. We're going down this long hallway before we make that 90-degree turn to go out through security. And when we come around through that security, these military people that were upstairs greeting us off the plane now form another gauntlet that we're going through. Now they're all standing at attention, saluting as these vets are going through. When we get close to going out through the security, we made arrangements with the Air Force Band of Flight to be there. When they see us come around, active duty standing there saluting, Air Force Band of Flight starts playing the medleys of the different service songs. That's when the crowd outside knows what's going on, and they start going bananas. And then this is where the thank yous start. Those thank yous are tears. Tears from these vets thanking us for giving them our opportunity. And they're getting the homecoming they so richly deserve now that they didn't get back then. So that's what Honor Flight is all about, you know. So I want to say a few words about this last flight that this gentleman here was on. And so the Air Force, as I said, was out there. They're strong supporters of us for a long time. And they approached us and said, how would you like, since you're getting down on your mission, World War II Korean, you're not getting that many more Vietnam before you run out, what do you think about going on a Air Force C-17 cargo aircraft? And we thought about it, and we've entertained this over the years. but the cargo aircraft, the C-130s and some of those, some of you are familiar with them. I mean, those are side-facing canvas seats, and it wouldn't accommodate them. And he approached and says, what do you think about going on a C-17? When I'm familiar with it, I worked on, at the base, I worked on the C-17 in initial design reviews. And I said, that's a possibility. So what we did, we met with the C-17 folks at Wright-Patterson. There was 3 things I was concerned about. One was seating, like the seats. It had to be comfortable seats. The other one was the noise. And the other one is, which vets all know, are the bathrooms. You know, we got to make accommodation because we know where every bathroom is in DC, believe me. So we needed to make sure that we had that accommodation on these cargo aircraft. So here's what they do. They for the cover for the bathrooms on the C-17, we have like a pallet that has what they call a comfort pallet, and it'll have bathrooms in that. So you roll those on and you lock that in place. And I said, okay, well, how about the seating? All right, now they have pallets for the seats. And these are just like seats you have in commercial aircraft. You have one pallet that will have 15 seats, 3 rows of 5. Roll that on. Those seats are just like what you're sitting if you're going on a commercial aircraft sitting in the back. Now we got wheelchair guys and big guys that need more space. So there's another pallet we have that have 10 seats, 2 rows of 5 on that pallet. So there's more spacing for our wheelchair guys and things like that. We can accommodate them that. So then we said, you know what? This is probably doable. So about a year and a half ago, we said, let's go for it. So for a year and a half, we've been working on this flight that took off on September 21st. Now, the other thing I said, we had the Centerville band always out there greeting us when we came back to entertain the folk. We said, what do we do about, you know, allowing possibly other people to get out here, and how are we going to entertain those? Let's go maybe a little bit bigger. So we thought about it, but we wanted, if we're going to have somebody bigger, we want to make sure that person is patriotic and can sing. So we're looking at different ones. Alan Jackson's. We ended up signing up with Lee Greenwood. One of the things when we come back, we play 2 songs. I'll get them all together before we turn them loose. We'll do the national anthem, and I have a guy named Jose sing God Bless the USA. And what about having Lee Greenwood sing that song to our vet? So we got him to lock in. His fees were extremely low that we could afford it. And so we said, let's do it. So we went and do it. Now, there's a couple of stipulations. One is that the Air Force and the taxpayers are not paying for that flight. The Honor Flight Dayton was the stipulation. You know, we pay for all of our charter flights. We don't want it to come back that the general public had to fund this fund. No, we funded it just like we did our normal charter. Now, the entertainment was the same thing. The Air Force was not going to be paying for that. We were going to get donations. So we sent up a team, not with the Air Force. They're separate than that. It was actually the president of the Air Force Association set up with his 501c3 to accept the donations and then pay the bills type like that. So all the money coming to take care of that flight was donations. Now you may ask, what about the pilot and things like that? Well, these are reservists, so they're required to do so many flights a month. So it just fell into their thing. So this was not taxpayers' deal. So after we decided on that one, we're starting to go along. Then they came back to, you know, Al, we know you got quite a few vets on that list yet. What do you think about doing 2 C-17? So we did 2 C-17s. And we wanted the general public in there, but the base has never been open for general public in over 50 years. So we had to make arrangements where we could branch off a certain part of Wright-Patterson just to allow civilians on. It was highly guarded and thing. They had to go through a certain gate to get there. Everybody had to go through a certain gate, but we didn't have enough room on the base to park the people. So we worked with Fairborn and Beaver Creek. So we made arrangements in Fairborn at one of their empty shopping centers that's where we're going to stage all these general people that are coming in. So we ended up doing 4,000 tickets. And what we did was we did a round robin from this shopping center, and it was secure that they had military check those people, just like you're going through the marathon to watch or something, to make sure no guns and all that stuff get on a bus, and a military person would be on that bus to get them on. So we had 20 buses doing round robins, taking 4,000 people to get them on base like that. So it was a lot of teamwork. And so we took off on September 21st in the morning. And one of the things, I don't know if you remember, but in the morning when we're getting checked in, so we have everybody getting checked in, we're going to have 6 buses. Normally, when you went, we had 4 buses, but in this one now we're taking 166 vets, 304 people total. So we had 6 buses. So I had to get them cleared to get on Andrews Air Force Base where we're going to land. And the other thing at Andrews Air Force Base, which was critical to us, is we had bathrooms before we took off. We had bathrooms on the plane, but we got to have bathrooms like we get in D.C. at Andrews. We've got to have bathrooms there. So we had porta potties sitting outside where the planes. I don't know if you saw them. They're by the buses. We had porta potties for these guys. Yeah, they wouldn't go. We wouldn't have porta potties there. So we did all that kind of stuff. And just, I don't know how much time I got there, but when we got to Andrews, we took off here and 2 planes. And when we got to Andrews Air Force Base, we're offloading. Had both those planes, we're offloading them, had our buses right there next to them. And then we get word saying, this is Andrews now. The Air Force One is not too far from where we're sitting. And we see these lights coming, and there's a C-17 loading these vehicles. What it was, remember I said about Lee Greenwood going. Well, remember Charlie Kirk was killed? President Trump was going out to the funeral, which was that day, September 21st. And he contacted Lee Greenwood 8 days before our trip. He says, I want you out there also. So we were looking at making arrangements to get him back from the funeral out in Arizona, but the timing, a 2-hour time, we just couldn't do it, so he had to cancel out. But we thought we could give if the people that came out to greet the vets and going to the Greenwood concert, if they wanted their money back, we would be gladly do it because we weren't charging them. It was all free for them, so we weren't going to lose anything. So anyway, so when we got to Andrews, we got that message that President Trump is going to be here in 30 minutes. We're not out of there. I don't know if you remember how we rushed. We had to rush to get those 6 buses loaded. And we had one guy, he's in a 4X shirt, big guy. So we had to get him off the plane into a wheelchair. Then we got him over to the bus. That wheelchair is one of our large ones, and we can't fit it on the ramp to get him out. So we had to wait for that guy, and he got him on, and we got it out there in 25 minutes. We just missed. Because if we were there when President Trump was on Andrews Airport, everything gets locked down. Nothing moved. So we got out there and went and did our thing. Then at the end of the night, just go through, we did all our thing. And then when we came back, one of the concerns too was, okay, we got 2 airplanes. What happens if one airplane breaks, but when something happens when we start up the engines that morning? So we had a 3rd, I don't know if you knew this, but we had a 3rd airplane sitting there just in case to transfer the guys over to that. We went out, there was no problems. We got to Andrews Air Force Base, and a 3rd airplane from Wright Pat took off at noon, flew out to Andrews, and was waiting there just in case one of those planes coming back had a problem. And everything went smoothly, so that 3rd airplane was just there and came back with no problem. So when we came back and they opened the doors of the hangar, and it was just an amazing scene as we came off that plane with close to 4,000 people greeting our vets. So it was a once-in-a-lifetime type deal. That we got with the Air Force people after, and they said, "Al, this really works smoothly. After we're doing it for a year and a half, it says we could skip the concert maybe in the future. And how would you like to do another one?" And my thoughts were, nothing's going to top that one. And I don't want to take anything away from that particular flight, so we're not going to do another one. So we're the only ones that ever done it with an honor flight, and that's where it's going to be. You want to go on with it. So that's what honor flight's about. And we're here, as Larry was saying, we're not looking for finances, we're in good shape. And because we've been blessed. And initially, we were struggling to get money, but over the years, when people found out what we're about, we've been blessed with finances. What we are after is the veterans. There's another endeavor you may not be aware of that may affect most of you people here. And that's one that Patty here is the director of. And it's a program we call Honoring Yesterday's Heroes. So in addition to taking the vets back to D.C., we thought, do a speaking engagement like this and get people to come up and say, geez, I wish my mom was still alive. I wish my dad was still alive. How can we honor them? And we thought about, so we started this program called Honoring Yesterday's Heroes. What we do is we'll take a picture of your loved one, someone that hasn't been on an honor flight. I'll give you my dad as an example. Dad was World War II, died before he could see his memorial. So I took my dad in 2014. So I take his picture. He was World War II. So in this particular case, what you see, this is the Korean memorial. So when we get to the appropriate memorial, we'll set up an easel like that. We'll have the American flag folded there with your loved one's picture next to it and their name below it. And we take a picture of that with the appropriate memorial in the background. Let's just say the guy was Vietnam Air Force. And on the form, it just says, what's the person's name? So we spell it correctly. What branch of service? He says Air Force. Okay, we go to the Air Force Memorial, so we'll do it there. And it says Vietnam, we go to the Vietnam Memorial, so we'll do it there. So we're going to do wherever we can to give you the best pictures we can of your loved one. And this is something absolutely free. Something absolutely free. We don't charge anybody. After that, you see the flag on there. So on this flight on September 21st, I mentioned the 64 wheelchairs I normally take. On this one, we had 96 wheelchairs. And so I bring a flag of a fallen comrade. And I'll get the vets together. This particular time, we did it at the Air Force Memorial. We get the vets together and for a group photograph. And we'll tell the vets that this flag that I brought for the ceremony represents not only that individual, but it represents your loved ones, your buddies that never made it home, that never got a chance to see their memorial. We'll have a bugler in DC play taps, have a moment of silence, and all the vets will salute that flag. You know, again, half of them are in wheelchairs standing, trying to stand up to salute that flag. So in addition to the photograph that you'll get, we give you a certificate, and that certificate says, on this day, Honor Flight Dayton paid tribute to your loved one's name, and then all the vets in attendance that day paid their respect by saluting that flag in honor of your loved one. And we do this, again, absolutely free for anybody across the United States. I think, how many did we do this last trip, Patty?
Over 70.
Over 70 of them we did on this last trip. Okay. So that's what Honors Flight's about. Where are we going from now? We're still with the World War II, Korea and Vietnam. They are building a memorial for Desert Storm, Desert Shield. So once that gets in, our mission will probably be expanded. But for right now, we're still continuing with that. And our next flight, we're already locked in for May 30th. We're back to Dayton. And we'll never be back to the Air Force, and we're going to stay with the Dayton like we've done in the past.